And I see it now. I see it. See, it's always been something. We're always having some problem. I got to get this taken care of. A New York City police arrest report summarizing the charges against Trump will then be prepared and entered into the court system before he is led into a courtroom to be formally arraigned on the charges, none of which are misdemeanors. Now, this is astonishing to me that the initial crime, the crime that they're starting with, is a fucking misdemeanor. You can't get that up into a felony. You can't convert a misdemeanor up into a felony. You can take felonies down to misdemeanors, but you can't go up. It's like when they were trying to convince us that, hey, if you've got COVID, if you've had the vaccine, or if you've contracted COVID, COVID-2, SARS, or whatever the fuck they're calling it, if you've contracted that, and it's a variation. If it's mutated, it could be more dangerous. That's all bullshit. In what fucking age do we live that a goddamn misdemeanor becomes a felony? You can't do it, folks. It's impossible. We are living in a goddamn clown world. And I'm going to start preaching. I'm done. You know what? I'm at the end of my rope. I'm tired of spending hundreds of thousands of dollars a month, of which I'm not making. I ain't made of money, but I'm spending thousands of dollars a month trying to promote this message, and I can't get anybody on fucking board to help. Not a fucking one of you motherfuckers. And I'm not talking about monetary help. I'm talking about jumping on board and doing things, getting things done to the next level. We're fucking tired. You guys keep saying nothing's ever going to happen. Nothing's ever going to happen. It's because you won't fucking do anything. Well, Kramer, I wrote a tersely worded letter to my congressman. Yeah, how'd that turn out? What'd you get out of that? As you can tell, I'm a little pissed. I'm hot underneath the collar. Time and time again, people call out and they complain and they say this isn't going to happen, or that's not going to happen, or nobody's going to do anything here. It's you not doing anything. It's not us. It's not the thousands of people who spend night and day worrying about our nation. And then we come on and we do these broadcasts and nobody wants to do anything but type in a couple of letters. And when you say, well, could you give me an hour to 2 hours a week to help out what we're doing? We request that help. I set up a special email so people could reach out. And then I hear, well, the reason they're not reaching out is because they're afraid that I'm a paid, what is it? What's the other one? The new term they're using now, I'm a paid counter intelligence. What is it? There's a term for it. Opposition. I'm paid opposition. That's what I am. No, I'm not. Mary, my wife's in the other room. Mary, do I make anything whatsoever for what I do? Do I pay way too much? Are you tired of writing the fucking checks? She's tired of writing the fucking checks. She doesn't see any reason for what I'm doing. I do. I think that we can turn this thing around. But folks, and I'm not begging for money. I'm begging for fucking help. I'm tired of being out here doing it by myself. Now, there are some out there. There's others that are doing this. There's some others that are doing it. But far too many people are not doing anything. And do you know what that's led us to? By the way, this isn't about me. I'm just bitching. I'm bitching about what's going on. It's led us to the point where tomorrow morning, our president, the president that was rightfully elected in 2020, is going to be arraigned on made-up fucking charges. They've taken a fucking misdemeanor and converted it to a felony. Hey, man. Generally, jaywalking doesn't get this, but because we don't like you, you're going to prison for the rest of your life because you jaywalked. That's the situation we're in. And Trump was right. They're not after him. Do you think that they'd be going after Trump right now if he wasn't running? Do you think that they would have announced that they're going to indict and arraign him? Do you think that any of that would be happening if that man had decided not to run? If he says, you know what? I'm not going to run again. I'm done. I've played my part. Meanwhile, spending 2 to 3 hours of doing something in your community is too much to ask of you. You're expecting somebody else to do it. That's the American problem right now. Expecting someone else to pick up their weight. Let me put it this way, and maybe you've heard me say this before. I'm not fighting for your freedoms. I'm not fighting for your liberties. I couldn't give two shits about yours. Doesn't matter to me. I'm fighting for mine. I'm fighting for the liberty and the freedoms of my family. I couldn't give two shits about your family. You see, politicians won't tell you that. What politicians will tell you is everything I'm fighting for you. I'm there for you. What you've learned over the last 2 or 3 years is that that's all bullshit, right? Is that what you've learned? That's what I've learned. I knew that for a long time before that, but it's really become evident here in the last 2 to 3 years. I created somewhere in the ballparks of 300 to 500 commercials every cycle when I was working in politics and doing video production for the state of Indiana. 300 to 500 ads, video commercials in particular. And time again, these politicians would say, if you just give me your vote, I'll go fight for you. Did they do their job? There's a few of them. There's a few names we've got out there. Matt Gaetz is giving his people everything he's got. Jim Jordan seems to be a firebrand doing the exact same thing. Gozer, Comer, a ton of them. It's not enough. Excuse me. It's not enough. We need your help. It's not just my voice. Imagine if your child was lost. Would you want just one voice calling out, just your voice calling out for your child? Is that enough? Or do you want the entire community calling out for your child's name, calling out your child's name, trying to save your child? Wouldn't it be better if the entire community was calling that name instead of just you? That's what's happening here. When one person stands, they're alone. Everybody looks at them. You see them in the mall and they're standing up and they're standing their ground and everybody just videotapes trying to get that 15 minutes worth of fame so they can be a star. Nobody steps in. Nobody says anything. How many times have we seen people getting their asses beat? People would rather film than step in or at least start yelling and say, hey, listen, don't do that. That's enough. We live in the age of fear, outrage and fear. You're outraged. You're angry all the time and too afraid to do anything about it. For those of us who've been doing it for the last 2 to 3 years, I'm fucking tired. I'm tired of doing this. I'm tired of fighting the fight, and you motherfuckers. And by the way, for those of you that are watching this tonight, for those of you that are saying, well, that's not me. That's not me. Okay, fine. It's not you. You're doing your part. Do more. Do more. Do more. We need more help. When's the last time you went to your state capitol and talk to any of your representatives? Well, Kramer, they're not working for you, dumbass. They're not working for me. Don't you get it? They're working for themselves. And you trying to take the easy way out, that's not the easy way to do it. My dad was a minister, and he would have these sermons where he would call out the church for not doing their part. That's kind of what I'm doing right here. Well, I don't like you, Kramer. You're a dick. You're a dick, Kramer. You tell it like it is. I like that, unless you point that back at me. When I'm doing it to the Democrats, you have no problem. But when I turn it back on the Republicans, and when I start saying to the Republicans, you've got to do your part. You've got to step up. You've got to start being involved in everything that happens in your community. You don't need to go to D.C. Get involved in your own community. Stop expecting others to do the heavy lifting for you. There's nobody fighting for your rights. That is one of the biggest, shallowest, falsest claims ever. No one gets up in the morning and fights for your rights. Nobody does. Nobody cares more about your rights than you do. Why would they? Do you care about your rights? Great. Did you make your mortgage payment last month? I made mine. Made my rent payment. Nobody helped me. Nobody sent me a check. Nobody said, here, Kramer, I've been thinking about you, been worried about you, getting your mortgage payment in. Listen, if people will not help you with your mortgage payment or your car payment or your school loan payment or your insurance payment or your car payment, if they won't help you with that, they're not going to take time out of their day to go specifically fight for you and your freedoms. It's just not going to happen. You have to start fighting for your own rights. You have to stand for your own freedoms. Phone lines are open, 877-619-3899. Again, that's 877-619-3899. Call in. Am I wrong? Am I off base here? Am I missing it? Am I not seeing it? Am I missing something? Because we're getting ready to go into another election. And what I keep hearing from people online and in person is it's going to be the same as 2020. It's going to be the same as 2020. What are we expecting? Then get the fuck out there. We can't do another 2020. We can't do another one. If we have another 2020, this union, this country goes to war with itself. We can't have another one. They get by with it because they count on you being stupid. They count on you being lazy. They count on you not paying attention. Everybody's all upset about what's going on with Trump tomorrow, and nobody's paying attention. All the oxygen has been sucked out of the room. They've directed the entire conversation away from Ukraine, Ghislaine Maxwell and the Little Black Book, what happened with Hillary Clinton and the FBI before they released that the Hunter Biden laptop was actually real, then the Hunter Biden laptop on top of that, with all the corruption of the Biden family. It's all been pivoted over to Trump. All that other shit's still going on. They just want you to forget about it. Just like the fine folks at the New Yorker wanted you to shut your mouth and move on and not vindicate those that held you hostage during the pandemic, those that were the Karens and so on. They don't want you bringing that back up. They made some mistakes, and it was your fault that you didn't warn them. You've seen those articles, right? Those articles where they say, it's your fault. It's your fault that I took this drug. It's your fault that I did this. It's your fault. You should have educated me more. It was your responsibility to do that. You didn't do it. Folks, for 3 years, I've been doing nothing but stating facts as to where we're going to go next. And about 8 months ago, I went on a limb and I said, there is no Q. They're not coming to save you. And I lost a big part of the people that followed me. They lost all kinds of hope and respect and all kinds of stuff from me. 8 months later, where's Q? Where's that white knight? Where's that savior that's going to come in those white hats that are going to come in and save us? Where are they? As they're arraigning our president, our duly elected president tomorrow, are they going to reveal themselves then or at trial? Or when they cart Trump off to prison? Is that when you'll stand up? Is that when you'll realize that everything that you believed was a lie? Is that when you'll do it? That's too late. It's too late then. It's too fucking late. We're living in a time of lawlessness. They keep saying that no one's above the law as they put their own people above the law. If no one's above the law, then where are the names in the Little Black Book? Where are those names? Ghislaine Maxwell's Little Black Book, Jeffrey Epstein's Little Black Book. Where's all that footage? They said that he had cameras everywhere, that every room was set up with a camera so that whoever was having sex or doing what they're doing, all of that was captured. All of it. The FBI have all of that information. Where the fuck are we? Where the fuck are they? You're live on CramerSez. What's your name and where are you calling from?
No shit. No, man, I was just going to call and tell you that, man, I love your shit. I hate that they keep banning you on TikTok. I just wanted to know one thing. What is your opinion about these leftist fucks that need to be arrested? Do you think they ever will?
I think the American people, let me jump in on you real quick. Because as you can tell, I'm in a pissed off mood tonight.
Myself, bro.
Well,
I just kind of wanted to watch your podcast, and I just wanted to ask you that question, but it's cool.
Yeah, the thing that I'm pissed off about is that the American people keep complaining, and they don't want to do anything about it. They're expecting someone else to do the heavy lifting. How much longer? Let me ask you this. What's your red line in the sand to where you finally say, okay, enough is enough. It's time to throw these motherfuckers out on their ear physically if we have to. How much longer will you go along with this?
Well, me personally, I sound just like all the other people that you kind of make fun of, dude. I got kids. I'm 40. I know you're older than me. I live in a very awesome community, right? We have no fucking riffraff around here. I'm very blessed to live where I live. But I also am ready with a plethora of things, So I'm just kind of sitting back and waiting, just like.
Well, that's what everybody's
else.
doing. That's what everybody's doing.
I know. It's pathetic. I hate to fucking say it, but like, see, a buddy of mine, he's gonna come to my house. He's got a smaller house and less things than I have. But this dude was in the military, and he tells me every day, he's like, we're not going to just sit here. He tells me, we're going hunting. I'm like, oh, man, I don't know.
Well, when it happens, it'll happen in the same way it's happened everywhere else on the face of the earth since the beginning of time. It'll happen the exact same way. And I've said it, and people say, well, that's a threat. It's not a threat. I'm telling you what's going to happen. I'm not doing it, right? But here's what's interesting is that when newspaper journalists in Mexico back in the 80s and 90s were writing stories that the cartels didn't like, what happened to them?
I don't know, man. I was born in '82. So,
okay, well, they disappeared.
You know a little bit more than me.
They disappeared. Well, so now that I've told you that the reporters who the cartels didn't like, that if they wrote something counter to what the cartel wanted, that they would be executed, right? So if that's the media that they're executing, what about judges? If I told you that they were executing journalists, if I told you that there was something that a judge did or a prosecutor did, and the cartel didn't like it, based on what they've done to the journalist, what do you think that they're doing to the DAs and the prosecutors, the judges?
I don't know, but I can personally tell you, I don't really think we're coming back from anything. I mean, you look at this Alvin Bragg fucking asshole, like in New York. I don't really think, like, and look, man, we all know that Trump's got his faults and whatever, but I don't know if we're ever going to have our country back, dude. I might be.
Well, everybody keeps saying that.
You hate,
Well, I don't hate anybody. I don't hate anybody. My thing is this, is that stop complaining if you're not going to do anything about it.
Oh, my God, bro. Look, you don't want me to say this live on your shit.
You can say whatever you want to say. It's unrestricted.
Really?
Yeah. What do you want to say?
See, one of the things I hate about this country, I'm sure you're on Twitter, right?
Mm-hmm.
I live very close to New Orleans.
Okay.
One of the problems I see off the political scale is blacks. I see a big problem with that shit. And
in what way? You're talking about black people? You're talking about black people in what way?
Not black. Look, I hate to use the other word because just like Chris Rock said, and I don't have to go any further, there's two different types. But see, where I live, I actually live in a good place. But like Baton Rouge, New Orleans, we have some serious fucking problems with that. And that personally, I would love to take care of, and I'm ready.
Well, that seems extremely racist to me. That am I reading you right here?
It's pretty racist. So you're gonna hang up now?
Well, no. I want to understand how a person gets to that point. How they feel that it's people of color that are the problem.
I'm gonna tell you like this. I own a business in South Louisiana, and some of my black customers who come from New Orleans are scared to fuel their cars up at night. The crime is so bad, right? And I know this. It's not white supremacists robbing you at the gas station and stealing your car. It's not white supremacists doing that. See, my focus is more on that.
Okay. So you're see, here's the problem I have is that crime is everywhere, right? And there's criminal. Wait a minute. There's criminals of all colors, right? So when we start targeting,
there are, but hold on, Kramer. Oh my God, I can't believe I'm even talking to you. When you look at the crime in all of these major cities, who's committing the homicide? Most of the homicides. I mean, if not 99% of them. What race are they?
So you're saying that's the problem. If we get rid of black folk in your neck of the woods, that will solve the crime problem.
I can tell you this much: if you went to New Orleans and you got rid of every black person in New Orleans, there would be no fucking crime.
Well, that's bullshit. That's bullshit. And that's racist. And it's un-American.
Where are you from? Where you from, homie?
Well, here's what I've done, homie, is that I've grown up all over the country, everywhere. My dad, I grew up in all the poor neighborhoods. I didn't have wealth as a friend of mine.
Really?
Yeah, I grew.
Have you ever been to New Orleans? You ain't looking behind your back for a white supremacist. You're looking behind your back for a black person to fucking rob and kill you.
Well, but I look for that. Here's the thing. I expect that from everybody. I keep my head on a swivel for everybody. I don't look.
When you go
exactly. I didn't get. Hey, when I was in Miami, I didn't get mugged. Well, I didn't get mugged at knife point by a black dude or a Cuban or Hispanic. I got mugged by a fucking white guy in Miami.
Well, that's a very, very unique.
It doesn't matter. My point is that if you see that crime is only one area, you've got a problem, and you prove what the left says about us. We're not this way.
Okay, so let me ask you this real quick. So all of the major homicide cities, right? New Orleans, Baton Rouge, St. Louis, D.C. Who's committing those homicides? Like, I mean, in mass. I mean, percentage-wise.
And do you
I'm
think?
not saying white people don't kill people. I'm saying who is committing those fucking murders in mass?
Well, they are, and they're basically in their own communities. They generally don't go out much. It's generally black on black crime in those areas. That's what the FBI stats show. But
right. So let's say like one day we turn the food stamps off for. I live in South Louisiana. Let's say one day we turn.
Okay. See, hold on. I got to stop you here, and the reason I got to stop you is because you're talking from an anecdotal situation of what's in your area. I came from Martinsville, Indiana. There are no blacks in Martinsville, Indiana. I mean, there's maybe one to five families. And when I was a kid in Martinsville, Indiana, there were none. Do you know where all the crime came from? The homicides, the rapes.
You want me to say what?
Well, who do you think if there were no people of color in my community and my house got broken into, who was it?
Do you think
was it Martians?
I'm trying to say that white people aren't capable of it.
They do it at the same.
They don't do it at the same pace, man. Look up some statistics, man.
Well, let me go to New Orleans. No. See, I'm not going to let you do this because if you go into the areas of where poverty are, if you go to white neighborhood, great example, Kentucky
really,
Avenue.
Man? Look up the poorest.
Hold on. I'm going to cut you off for a second. Go down to Kentucky Avenue on the south side of Indianapolis. Okay, on the south side of Indianapolis, per capita, the crime rate in that area is just as high as it is in the blackest areas of east side of Indianapolis, because it's based on poverty. Now, if my neighbors in my old community, I lived in $1 million house. I didn't have any problem with any of the black people that are in my community. It has nothing to do with skin color, sir. It has everything to do
with black people, homie.
Well, you just said you did. You want to kill them all.
I did. No.
You said you want to get rid of them.
I have no problems with black people. Just like Chris Rock said, there's two different kinds, right? And down here in the South, let me tell you this one story real quick. When I went to Phoenix, I moved to Phoenix for a little while. I loved Phoenix, right?
Yep, and when Phoenix is beautiful.
There, Phoenix is great.
Yeah, it is.
You know what they hate in Phoenix? Mexicans. They hate them. And I'm like, I don't get it. And I had a friend from Phoenix come visit me down here, and we went to New Orleans. And he was like, man, I never understood why you had a problem with fucking blacks until we went to New Orleans, right? They're violent.
Okay, go ahead. Well, you see, here's the thing. So if you see a black person, and
you can't just throw black out there, dude. I separate that word.
Well, you can't though.
Just like Chris Rock did.
No, but you can't do that on the fly. You don't know if a person coming down the street means you any harm based on their skin color.
Well, down here you have to be cautious.
Well, you have to be cautious everywhere. Evidently, you haven't been out of town much.
Oh, dude, I lived in Burbank. I lived in New Jersey. I lived in Nashville.
Okay. So
South Dakota. I've been all over this country.
Okay.
And I'm gonna tell you this one thing. One thing that stands true the entire time: the most violent and racist people I've ever met in my entire life are blacks, dude, not white.
Well, you know what? That's where I got to cut you off. And the reason I got to cut you off is because you're a racist.
Yes, I am.
Okay, well then you can't turn around and say somebody else is a racist.
I don't fucking care, man.
Well, there you go.
I don't care.
That's the problem. I wish you luck, man. I'm gonna go on to the next caller, but I appreciate your call tonight. It's interesting to me is that you can't put people in. You can't put people into a box. That's what Democrats try to do. Is there a problem in poverty-ridden areas with people of color? Yes, there are. But if you go to the fucking white areas, it's no different. It's poverty. It's not skin color. It's based on availability. It's based on the culture. How do I know? I came out of it. That's how I was raised. Those were the people I was around, both black and white and Hispanic and Vietnamese. When we were in the crime in Houston, when I was a kid, wasn't from the blacks or the Hispanics. It was the newly arrived Vietnamese. That was who was causing the problem at the time, mainly because they thought they'd gotten to America and could do whatever the fuck they wanted to do. They didn't realize, we've got laws here. This do whatever you fucking want thing is well, that's different than what you're thinking. You can do whatever you want within reason. You got to do it inside the law. This mentality, this vitriol that we have for people of different color or different looks or different whatever, you cannot look at a person and say, I know who they are. That old saying, reading a book by its cover. You can't do that. How do I know that? Because I've seen I'll give you an example. There was a bouncer that I worked with years ago. This guy had the meanest look on his face. It was what he's born with. It's like me and my bald head. People say I scowl all the time, that I look angry all the time. I'm not angry. I'm jovial on the inside. I like to have a good time, but I can't help the way that my face, I get resting bitch face all the time, I guess. You can't judge people by the way that they look. So Steve, this bouncer, he was a hard ass. He just looked like he'd rip you to parts. And that's who I interviewed with when I went in to interview for a job. And I already knew the guy. I'd run into him from time to time in the bar, and I didn't want to have anything to do with him because I knew who he was. I knew what his reputation was. Then when I talked to him, he wasn't anything like I expected. Wasn't black, by the way. There's no surprise and by the way, he was black. No, another white guy. He just looked like a fucking dick. He just looked like he had that look on his face. And when I got to know him, nicest guy on the planet. We became great friends, great boss, enjoyed working there. My point is that if you judge a book by the cover, you'll never get the meaning of what's inside. Because you've already made your determination of what is on the outside. Are there problems? Yes, there are problems. Can they be fixed? Yes, they can be fixed. But if you're starting out with, well, people of this color or that color are this way because of the color of their skin, I get a problem, and I can't have a conversation with you. Especially when you say you're a racist outright. Well, but it's different. I'm like Chris Rock. Nope. You don't get to use that as a way to sidestep your racism. Lines are open right now, 877-619-3899. I'd like to get somebody to call who isn't a racist or doesn't have a problem with people based on the color of their skin. And the reason I say this is that America right now, well, the way I was raised is that we're a melting pot. And when I was a kid, my family was not a melting pot. We were all Caucasian. It's not that way now. Our family's better for what it is. The diversity that we have in this nation is supposed to be diversity of thought, not diversity of color and religion, of all these other things. It's supposed to be diversity of thought, diversity of ability. We're all supposed to be the same. I can make any group in this country with stats look bad. There was a murder in my neighborhood. We had a $1 million home. There was a homicide in the neighborhood. In fact, not too far away from me, not in my immediate neighborhood, but Jared, the Subway guy, lived in my neighborhood. He's white. Crime is independent. Crime doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. It doesn't matter. There are criminals of all colors and shapes. This mentality, as Americans, we've got to break this. We've got to define what our new goal in this country is. And equality. It's not equity, it's equality. You're live with CramerSez. What's your name and where are you calling from? Hello, what's your name? Where are you calling from?
Are you Jewish or something, man?
Okay. See, that's the problem. No, I'm not Jewish. I'm not Jewish at all. I just don't like racist because I've got these people in my family. I've got black family members. I have Asian family members. I have Hispanic family members. We're the UN at my house. And for me to say, well, I can't have you in my family, or I think that you're this way or that way. Oh, no. I'm not going to split hairs like that. They're not like that because they're family, but those people over there could be because they're not family. That's the mentality here. I don't get this. I don't get this mentality in this country. We're supposed to be a melting pot. We're supposed to not judge people by their color. And by the way, I probably lost a follower, fan. That's fine. I don't need racist in my back pocket. I don't need racist back there. We don't need that. You see, this is how you talk about it. When people start to say bullshit like that, you've got to speak up. You've got to say how you feel. You can't be quiet. You can't sit back and be worried about their feelings, because here's the thing. They're not worried about yours. They're not worried about the people that they hate based on skin color. They just don't. This wasn't the topic that I wanted to get on tonight, but I'm glad you brought that up. That's great. Great point to have people hear that they're everywhere, and they'll come up with all kinds of justifications of how their racism is different. It's not like the others. It's not really hate. It is. I think it's time that America go back to what we were taught when I was a kid, that we're a melting pot. Nobody's better than anybody else. That's the way we were taught. Are there criminals? Yeah, there's criminals. But explain it to me that a black criminal is any worse than a white criminal, or more likely to treat you, to mistreat you, or you can't. There's nothing there. As I said, in Martinsville, Indiana, there were no people of color at all in any way, shape, or form. There were no Asians when I went to school there. There were no blacks when I went to school there. There were no Hispanics when I went to school there. I didn't have problems with those people. I had problems with white people that were bullies and mean, and stole and lied. All the things that we like to put off on somebody else. Well, no, that's why I can be honest about it. And then when my dad, as I've said many times, was a minister, we went to Indianapolis on a regular basis to a black church. I felt more love there in that church than I did at middle school. I felt safer there than I did at middle school. So that's just my opinion. Lines are open, 877-619-3899. What's interesting about what's going on with Trump and so on is that, as I started to say earlier, is that people will come out and justify what is best for them. They'll justify what is best for them and their families, whatever that is. We've seen it happen time and time again. And if you don't realize that going in, then what you'll do is you'll align with them. And you won't realize that, well, what they're telling you may not be what's best for you, but what's best for them. And that's what we've seen over the last 2 to 3 years, are people taking advantage of the system. We'll get back to that here in just a moment. You're live on CramerSez. What's your name and where are you calling from?
I just made you lose some followers.
Okay, there we go. Now we know his number. He will not be calling back. I can do this all night long. It doesn't bother me at all. Now we'll just block him because I don't need racist. I don't need racist followers. If that's what you think, that we need, then you're off the mark. You're live with CramerSez. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Melissa.
Hi, Melissa. Where are you calling from?
Georgia.
Georgia. What's on your mind?
I would just like to hear, what do you think we should do as far as standing up and not getting locked up or shut down by corporate America? If you work for a corporation, it's very clear that they tell you what you think and what you should say about all of the politics going on today. What can we do to keep what we have now and not lose it?
Well, the first thing is to stop the bullshit. And people have to have,
how do we do it?
Well, the first thing, you take little stands like I did against this gentleman right here. When people start to talk, it starts with your neighbors. Let me put it this way. Okay, so let me put it this way. You cannot, and I'm sorry, it was Melissa, right?
Right.
Okay. Melissa, you cannot I'm not going to expect you to stand up against your government if you won't stand up against the school board. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
If you won't show up at a school board meeting in mass in your community to stop what you don't want in your community, if you won't do that, I can't expect you to show up anywhere else and fight. I can't expect it, because if you won't do the minimum, there's no way you'll do the max. You won't travel across the country. You won't send money. You won't do certain things if you won't do the minimum. So what I've been asking everybody to do, just start with the minimum and build from there.
Well,
Find a cause in
work
your
at-
community. Say that again.
I work, at the polls as a poll watcher.
Okay.
I've done that, and how the elections have gone. So,
Yep.
I've been there to sign the thing that I've watched it and seen things and so forth. But I never saw anything that was way outlandish or anything. Well, when I did volunteer to do that after 2020. I've done that, trying to
Well, and
work in
that's the first step, right? So let me ask you this.
Right.
You've done the first part. You've stepped forward and you volunteered time. You didn't see anything, but you did the right thing. Now, is what you did enough? Is there more that you could do? Could you get more people involved, more people in your community, and say, listen, we're not just going to work the polls, but we're going to make sure that our school board is doing its job. We're going to make sure that our state legislators are doing what they're supposed to do, that our state legislature is not overreaching its boundaries, and keep an eye on them and let your friends and family know what's going on, so that you're the little busy bee, right? The Gladys Kravitz that keeps track of all of that.
right. Okay. All right. So
it starts local. Nothing is going to change in DC. The system there is too big, right? If we want to change DC, we have to change home first. So the way that you change home is you get involved locally. You pick things that you're invested in, that you're interested in. For example, you know how I got into politics? The way that I got into politics is I got a $400 tax bill. That's how it started. It pissed me off. And I called everybody, and nobody would listen to me. I just wouldn't shut up. I just kept. Now, we've never gotten rid of the tax bill. It's a what do you call it? A township tax. They got rid of the statewide inventory tax, and they just moved it off to the townships. And they said, we got rid of the inventory tax. And then the townships came in and raised it higher than what the inventory tax was up front. So my point is this, Melissa, if you want to make an impact, you've got to pick something in your community that's important to you and get to know those people, right? The people that are in charge. And then I'll give you an example. I was doing, we were shooting a commercial for a state legislator in Indiana, and I was told to keep my mouth shut because I got a big mouth. I was told by the agency to keep my mouth shut and not have a direct conversation with the client, the legislator. Okay, whatever. So we're at lunch, and at lunch they were talking about the was it called the alcohol? What here in Indiana it's called something else. It's the when they set up a breathalyzer thing at the bottom of an exit for a freeway or something, and everybody who comes off the freeway has to blow into the breathalyzer to see if they're drunk or not. He had passed that bill, got it taken care of in Indiana, and they were discussing it, and I just happened to be sitting across from him, and he says, well, there was a conversation going on, and the legislator, the politician asked me specifically, he says, well, what do you think about this? I said, what do I think about you violating my Fourth Amendment rights? And everybody at the table froze. I said, he asked, I'll tell him. It's a violation of my Fourth Amendment right. But we're stopping everybody. Then you're violating everybody's Fourth Amendment right. What did I do? What's the crime that you think that I committed that gives you the right to say, well, you're on the road? And that's not in the law. You can't just stop someone and tell them they got to give over their information because you think they may be drunk just because they're on the road. They didn't like that. He didn't like that. And he goes, well, he says, we're trying to save lives. I understand that. You can't violate my rights to save lives. That's what it takes. It takes balls you've got to be able to tell the king that he's wearing no fucking clothes and not care what the king fucking thinks, because the king works for you. And that's what I reminded him of that day. I said, you're not You're not doing anything for me. You're taking my rights, but I'm trying to protect you. Not by taking my rights, you're not. You make me less safe taking my rights.
Exactly.
So that's what Melissa, that's what it takes. It's not big actions. It's not January 6th, right? It's not Gettysburg. It's not the Boston Massacre. It's not those kinds of things that make change. It's people on a daily basis speaking up and saying, I'm not going to put up with that. And then here's the other thing. If you, Melissa, have just your voice, right? Just your voice, is it very powerful?
Just mine, no.
No, but what if you get another friend or 2 or 3 friends or 4 or 5 friends and they show up?
Right.
Right. So let me ask you this. What are your friends and neighbors in Georgia? What are they saying currently? What is their mindset about where we are as a nation right now?
Oh, they feel like it's awful, and they want to pray about it. And, but nobody wants to do anything, when we try to excite people to get on. Nobody knows what to do because everybody has watched January 6th,
right? And
they're terrified of being locked up or losing, what they have.
Well, here's the thing. They've already lost it.
Right.
Right. If you're afraid of your government, if you're afraid of speaking up against your government because your government may crack down on you, it's already too late. They've already won. If you're afraid of your government, I'm not afraid of the government. There's nothing that I've done. I don't break laws. I have the right to redress my grievances against my government. It's written in the Constitution.
Yeah, but I think they threw it away, didn't they?
Well, that's the thing. You see, if they throw it away and you don't go get it and you don't stand up for it and you don't stand up for your rights and you just let them trample over your rights, they didn't take your rights. You gave them away. You handed them over.
I agree.
Right? So again, if you want to keep your rights, if you want to keep your freedoms, you have to demand that you've got to be willing to go to jail. The left is. Liberals are ready to go to jail as they burn down our cities, as they loot and pillage our communities. They're not afraid of going to jail.
No, they're not.
They're not.
Don't lock them up.
They don't care. Now,
I think they know that they won't be locked up.
Right. Well, and they've got Kamala Harris coming forward trying to raise money for them. So my point, Melissa, is this. If you want to make a change in your community, you first of all got to get involved. And working the polls is a great thing to do. That's a great first thing to do. But that's the last thing you do. It's not the first thing you do. It's the last thing, just to make sure that all the work that you've done up to that point is in a secure vote. But you got to be involved. And it's not just one person. Like I said, you don't have to be at every meeting. You just have to pick one thing that you're passionate about. I don't care what it is. But that's what you get into. And then you hold those people accountable. There's a lady in Las Vegas, Nevada that I met when I was out there working with the Tom Heck campaign for governor. And one of the things that she does is that she just goes through all of the information in her city's little newspaper. And it's a little burg outside of Vegas. And she goes through all of that and she compiles that and just sends all of the most important stories to all of her friends in this little chain. Everybody gets it. And it's amazing when you get together with these old ladies and they start to tell you what they're talking about. They are informed because of this one lady, just because of what she's doing. She compiles it and just sends it out and says, okay, now here's all the links. Take a look at this. These are the things I think that are important. And these other women now are informed on the issues that are most important in their community, at least to Betty. Betty is the one that puts it all together. So when she does it, it gives the others I'm trying to think of the best way to put it. They may not go look for that information on their own, but they'll look at it because she collected it and they trust her.
Right.
Right. Be that person. And I'll leave you with this, Melissa. If you're looking for a leader, be the leader you're expecting. Become the leader that you want. Old boss told me that. He says, if you can't find a leader, he says, that means you're in front. So be that leader. Start defining what you want in your community. And then these other people, if you can't, and this is what I started the podcast with tonight. I'm pissed. I'm done. I'm done of coming on here. I told my wife tonight, I'm so tired of doing this. I'm tired of coming on and screaming and yelling and people just saying the same thing, that nothing's ever going to happen as they do nothing.
Right.
Right.
I realize that.
Yep. Yep. So what's the politics in your neck of the woods down there like? Is it conservative, liberal, mixed? What is it?
It's mixed.
Mixed?
It's like where you have to be careful at Thanksgiving because you don't want to say
Right.
anything to, it's kind of like that, especially about COVID. But it's mixed, and you never know anymore. Used to you knew,
Yep.
but now since COVID and all this other stuff, it's very mixed. I don't always know. I think a certain way sometimes, and then I'll be fooled quickly.
Well, I think one of the things that, and again, I've told the story a million times. We moved a lot when I was a kid. I moved all over the country. My dad was a minister. And I came to the conclusion really early in life, I don't give two shits what people think of me. And the main reason is because I would do what they wanted me to do. I didn't want to do it. I either felt uncomfortable or it wasn't really me, but I was doing it because, well, I wanted to be friends with them. And then I suddenly realized, I don't know what age it was, that there's a chance we're going to be moving in 6 weeks. Why do I want to suck up to this person to be a friend? And they're not even going to be here. They should suck up to be my friend. And that's the way I started doing my life. And it's amazing how it makes things so much easier. Now, my loved ones, the people in my family, I care about what their opinions are. Couldn't give a shit about anybody else's. Don't care. Because until you pay my mortgage, until you make my life easier, your opinion has no weight on mine. So when somebody says something to me, like the young man who came out and said he's a racist, it's like, okay, I'll let you speak. I'll let you use all the rope you want to hang yourself and to prove who we think you are. But I don't have any problem speaking out and telling him exactly what I think. He's a racist.
Right.
And we don't need those kind of people. I don't need those voices. I don't need that, well, Kramer, he's your ally. No, he's not. Just because David Duke, says that he's a racist and that he supports someone, that doesn't mean that they're aligned with what I have to believe, because that flies in contradiction to everything that I care about, because I've got everybody in my family.
Right.
And I understand there, if you live in the South, I've been told it. Well, we lived in the South. We lived in Jacksonville, lived in Texas. We were told all the same stories. I just never saw it. I just never saw the reason why I should look at a person of color or look at a person and judge them on what I think they are internally. I don't know what they are internally until I talk to them, until I know their heart.
Yeah, I was not raised that way. My granddaddy, when he passed away, he left his truck to a man that had helped him grow. He grew up. My granddaddy basically raised him, and he was a black man that was part of our family. They were pallbearers. I mean, I was not raised that way.
Nope, and neither was I. And here's the thing. There's this, and you being in Georgia, you probably heard this, that there was a switch, that there was a point where all the racists that voted for Democrats all of a sudden one day decided, hey, listen, we're not going to vote for that party anymore. We're going to vote for this other party because we like the racism they do much better than we like the racism that the Democrats do. I didn't see that either. What I saw is in the 1970s is that as the southern states had jobs, tons of people from the Midwest and the North moved into the South for those jobs. And when they came into the South and took over, they changed all that shit, right? That little social club that Democrats had down there in Georgia. It's got those 3 consecutive letters in it. You know what I'm talking about? The KKK.
Yeah, I never knew about any of that stuff.
My point exactly. My point exactly. By the time I'm 57 years old, by the time that I got to the point in by the time I got old enough, Melissa, to realize what was going on, the majority of that had been taken care of. The people had said, no, I don't want to join your club. No, I don't want to do that. No, I'm not a racist. You knock yourself out, but that's not me. And what happened is that it just phased out. Do you have racist people? Yeah, you got racist people. Yeah, I've got a racist uncle, right? I got a racist uncle. He's been racist his entire life. I can't change him. I laugh at him and I tell him about all the things he's missing. But I think that unless we hold people accountable, I'm a big believer in public shaming. I don't know if you are. Do you believe in that, Melissa?
What?
Public
something wrong?
Well, public shaming, right? If you're public shaming, you should shame people, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, it depends. Yeah.
Well, if you're a racist, and you don't want a racist around you, do you shame them publicly? I do. I call them out for what they are. I don't have a problem with it. Right? If you're,
I don't have people that I know that.
Well, but I'm talking about anything. I'm not just talking about racism. I'm not talking about anything. If you know a thief, right? Do you call out the thief? If you know a liar, do you call out the liar?
Yes.
Right. And we don't do that enough.
No.
Let me ask you this: this chick that just shot up this last school, the I can't remember her name at this point, but Hale, Audrey Hale. Have you seen the people questioning? There was a Stop the Gun Violence protest, and the reporter went up and asked, "How much do you blame Audrey Hale for what happened?" And they didn't blame her at all. They only blamed the gun. Do you think that's a problem?
Yes, that's a big problem.
Explain that.
Because we've got to be accountable for what we do. It wasn't the gun's fault. It was the person that pulled the trigger's fault.
And
I mean, if I would be they'd lock me up and put me under the jail.
Right.
And they would never be feeling sorry for me. Nobody would.
Well,
I wouldn't do anything like that, though.
But that's the problem we have right now. We have this issue of duality, where one group.
From top
go ahead.
to the bottom.
Exactly.
You know, it's exactly from the top to the bottom. Nobody in our Congress, in my entire life, have I ever seen anybody punished for anything in our Congress. We have a sex fund we're paying for. We don't know who they're.
Well, and Republicans, now I've said this many times before, Melissa, and people get upset with me, but hey, listen, we got a problem on both sides of the aisle.
Look,
we had,
right.
what Denny had, was it Haster? Was it Haster, the speaker of the House on the Republican side? I believe it was, right? Well, he went to prison for molesting young boys.
Oh, I did. You know what?
Yeah.
That was the time, I guess.
Yeah. No, it was just a few years ago.
Dennis, yeah.
Yeah, Dennis. So my point is that we have criminals that are on both sides of the aisle. We've got criminals, thieves, pedophiles, and everything that are of all races and all backgrounds and all religions. I'm so fucking tired of somebody trying to look at this picture of Jeffrey Epstein. He's standing right next to Bill Clinton. And then we turn around, oh, look at this picture. He's standing next to Donald Trump. What that tells me is that Jeffrey Epstein had way too much access to way too many powerful people. That they're not. Go ahead.
Yeah, you're right.
Well, that Epstein had way too much access, and that the people in power are not vetting themselves. And all of a sudden they see money or they see a billionaire and they go, cha-ching, right? They don't, they don't pay attention to what's really important. And then all of a sudden they find themselves in a picture with a pedophile. Now I'm going to ask one last question here before I let you go. Okay. Ghislaine Maxwell went to prison for trafficking kids. The little black book that she had, nobody's been indicted for that. Trump is going to be arraigned tomorrow on a case that is based off of a misdemeanor that is 2 years out of its statute of limitations, 2 years past its statute of limitations.
How's it possible in today's
There
world?
we go. We'll talk about that. Because, I mean, you sound like a common sense person. Does it seem right that nobody's been indicted? I mean, all the people, Ghislaine Maxwell trafficked children, but the children are the people who she trafficked the kids for. They're still out there.
I thought we would see that by now. I mean, long ago when she was first arrested.
Do you think that those people that she was working for, do you think that they've stopped doing what they were doing with children when she got busted?
They're doing it. Somebody else is being the trafficker.
Yep. That's the way it is.
No doubt.
That's the way it is.
I don't know how that comes out.
Well, it comes out when, and what I was trying to tell the other gentleman before that, and thank you so much for calling, Melissa. The thing that I was trying to tell him is that the system is broken. And unless we start standing up and until we stop waiting on somebody else to stand up for us, until we start standing up to defend our own rights and stop waiting on Q or the government or some state legislator or senator or congressman to come in and work harder at ensuring your freedoms than you are, it's not going to happen. And the way that I know that is because every morning you get up and you go to a job that you may or may not like. You're overtaxed, overworked, so that you can meet the requirements for your life. You don't do it for anybody else. You do it for you and yours. You don't do it for me. You don't do it for my neighbor. You don't do it for even your neighbor. You do it for you and yours. And when you think about freedoms, you don't think about somebody else's. You don't come to my rescue or somebody else's rescue. That's the problem that we're in right now, folks. America has to realize where we are. And it's got to wake up that no one is working harder to defend your rights than you will. It's going to take you standing up for your rights. It's going to take you, and it's not going to be at DC. It's going to be local. Get to your state legislator or state legislature. Talk to your state legislators, your state senators, your state representatives. Get to know them. Ask them very specific questions. Go to your sheriff. Go to your elected officials and start demanding answers from them. And then if they won't talk to you, make it very public. We have all the channels that we need now to do everything that we need to do. We can broadcast across the entire world. We have all the reach we need. You got a situation in your neighborhood, you got a situation in your community where you need some light shined on it. We're here to help. That's what we're here for. That's why we're building this network, is so that we have the resources and the ability to say, hey, listen, over here in Biloxi, we've got this going on, or over here in Idaho, we've got this going on. You need to pay attention if you're in that area. You need to jump in and help. I'll close with this. If you're afraid to speak out against your government because you're afraid your government may come and take you away and put you in jail, that's the fucking time you speak out against your goddamn government. That's when you do it. That's the time that it's the time to do it. When they have the power to incarcerate you because of what you're saying. There's a young man right now that's facing 20 years in prison for writing a goddamn meme about Hillary Clinton in 2016. He used his voice and he could potentially go to jail for 20 fucking years for writing a goddamn meme on Twitter. That could be you next. That could be me. That could be your cousin or your brother or your sister, your son or your daughter. We're sliding back into the aristocracy where there are laws for them and then there's all the laws for us. If you don't stand right now, if you don't make your voice heard, if you don't take action, history tells us what happens next. If you don't believe me, look at Germany, circa 1938. That's all you need to know. With that being said, I'm out of here. Nothing's working, so I'm just going to end it the way that it is. Thank you so much for joining. If you want to join what we're doing, I beg that you help us. I beg. Hit us up at syndication@CramerSez.com. I'm not asking for money. I don't want money. I want your time. I've been saying the exact same thing over and over and over again. We've built a resource. We've got CramerSez.com. Is it perfect? No, but we're building on it. If you want to build a community, you've got the resources there. If you want to commit a group, you've got the resources there. That being said, I'm out of here. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.